Could this just be the year where Mercedes' grasp on the top of the table is finally put under serious threat? Okay, I won't waste any more of your time. No, it isn't. Well, that sure aged well. Hey, at least I didn't predict Vettel to do well now, did I? My bold prediction for 2021 is fairly simple, and that's that Sebastian Vettel will get himself a win in the Aston Martin this year. Oh, for f***'s sake. Hey there guys, and welcome to FP1, and the brand new series on the channel where I'll be reviewing every single one of the 2021 races in my typical sarcastic fashion. Now, it wouldn't be an FP1 video if I didn't throw in a cheeky plug now, would it? So, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to turn that red subscribe button grey and drop the video a like as well. But with all that out of the way, let's jump straight into the comedy review of the 2021 Bahrain Grand Prix. So F1 was back then, and ready to get underway under the lights of the Sakir International Circuit. 10 teams, 19 drivers, and one dickhead would fight it out for the World Championship. And after pre-season testing, it sure looked as if it was going to be one of the tightest grids the sport has seen in recent years. Sure enough, as the lights turned green for free practice, Red Bull and Mercedes traded blows at the top of the table. Verstappen would find himself taking the first free practice session with his German rivals in close pursuit. Meanwhile, all the talk was on the midfield, as McLaren backed up their strong testing pace, and Ferrari actually looked competitive.
Wait, that's illegal.
In fact, all the Ferrari machines looked quite quick in the Bahrain desert. Well, all but one. Oh, Haas. The team that made the smart decision to do no work on its car for the 2021 season. And unsurprisingly, it would back up the field over the course of the weekend. That said, Mad Lad Maz was still able to get his car on the world feed as he practiced his race runs, which ended up being pretty accurate, it must be said. Also having a bit of a hard time was Kimi Räikkönen, who thought he'd try emulating the ballet dancers at the Alfa Romeo F1 launch coming out of Turn 2. Verstappen kept up the pace in FP2 as sister team AlphaTauri also threw their hand into the mix, turning up the Eurobeat and getting both Honda-powered cars into the top 10. But further down the order, the likes of Aston Martin and Alpine appeared to be struggling, as Mr. Eyebrows, Fernando Alonso, could only muster 15th by the end of the session. Valtteri Bottas and the Mercedes also claimed his car was undrivable, but the fact that the Finn can't drive was already well known by this point. Moving on to Saturday, and before qualifying, we still had one final free practice session. By its end, 8 of the 10 teams were represented inside the top 10, further driving home the idea that we were in a super close season, and that Williams and Haas were still shit. And all this made qualifying one of the most interesting sessions of the weekend. The hour, split into 3 sessions, would decide where everyone would line up on the grid, as well as how far off the pace Bottas would already be off Hamilton. The first of these sessions would end with a bang, as Nikita Mazepin decided to show off, overtaking everyone in the queue in the dying seconds, just so they got a perfect view of him spinning off into turn 1. The resulting yellow flags ruined the laps of many drivers, including new Aston Martin man Sebastian Vettel. To rub salt in the wounds, his replacement at Ferrari, Carlos Sainz, would also lose power, causing a further yellow flag period and proving that even though Seb is out of Ferrari, they still have the power to f*** him over. And even after this, the story wasn't over for the 4-time champion, as the students decided that he still went too fast in these yellow flag zones and relegated him to the back of the grid. Also out in Q1 were Ocon, Latifi and the 2 Haas cars, as Mr. Saturday, George Russell, took his Williams into the next part of qualifying. Q2 was just as action-packed as the first, with both Ferrari stealing the show and going 1-2 at the end of the session. Now I don't know about you, but I can smell the oil from here already. The big loser meanwhile would be Sergio Perez, as he had his first lap invalidated and couldn't find enough time to take his Red Bull into the final part of the session. Here, in an exclusive clip, the live reaction of Alex Albon can be seen.
Perez, the Red Bull, out of the top 10 shootout. Now that's a great surprise.
As we approached the final part of qualifying, everyone was wondering how much Mercedes would turn the engine up and thrash Red Bull by. However, to our surprise, this didn't actually happen.
And by nearly 0.4 of a second, Max Verstappen has sent the Red Bull garage into raptures. He's on pole.
Max Verstappen ended up taking the first pole of the year, continuing his strong form from the end of last season, which leaves us with just one thing left: the race itself. But before we get into that, I'm happy to announce that this video actually has a sponsor. Yep, somebody actually decided to link their name to this stuff. The Formula merch store sell a range of products from t-shirts to prints and phone cases all about Formula 1. At the moment, they have collections of Ferrari, McLaren and Red Bull, and more to come in the future. The quality of these products is fantastic, and the prices are incredibly fair, unlike the official F1 store. In addition, if you want to help support the channel, then you can place the code FP1 at checkout to allow me to profit off some of the purchases. So if you want to spice up your merch collection, check out the store page down in the description below. Anyway, let's get back to the video now, shall we? Before the lights even went out, Perez would learn the pains of being Red Bull's second driver, with his car stopping on the formation lap. Now, I could make a joke about this, but I feel like Perez's steering wheel summed up the situation perfectly. Remarkably, he'd be able to start his Red Bull in time for the beginning of the race, however was forced to start last and into the pit lane. That said, last time Perez was last in Bahrain, it went pretty well for him. Anyway, the first round of the 2021 season finally got going with Verstappen making a good start and retaining the lead into turn 1. Mad Lad Maz, however, would be less fortunate, losing it up the hill and bidding his hat on the wall. That said, Romain Grosjean proved last year that things can always go worse at that corner. The restart off the following safety car was just as dramatic, as not to be outdone, Mick Schumacher tried his best to emulate his teammate into turn 4, while Gasly undid all the hard work he did in qualifying and broke the hearts of all the F1 fantasy players out there. Charles Leclerc, after a strong start, began to fall back as we would have expected from Ferrari, slipping behind both Bottas and Norris in the early stages of the race. Verstappen, meanwhile, was running away at the front, until Mercedes decided to try and get the undercut on the Red Bull driver. Now, at this point, Red Bull could have pitted Max straight away so to mitigate any losses. However, just like their recent driver decisions, decided they knew better, keeping Max out as Lewis reined in the gap. Unsurprisingly, when Max pitted a few laps later, Lewis would emerge well and truly in the lead. Verstappen did at least have the advantage in terms of his tyres, so began to close up the gap to the Mercedes over the course of the next stint. And while all that was going on, we were being treated to a fantastic battle between the driver screwed by Ferrari almost 10 years ago, a guy screwed by Ferrari up till last year, and a guy currently being royally screwed by Ferrari. Jokes aside though, this battle between these three was nothing short of fantastic, and really showed off how close the teams had become over the off-season. Another driver having a surprisingly good day was Sergio Perez, climbing up the order and closing in on this fight at the fringes of the top 10. While he moved up the pack, poor Sebastian Vettel was doing the opposite, turning up his weekend by crashing into the back of Esteban Ocon while claiming the Frenchman had moved over into the braking zone. Anyway, back to the leading two, and Max Verstappen was now right on the back of Lewis Hamilton for the lead of the Grand Prix. It looked certain that Max was going to claim victory, but after claiming the place off track, he was forced to give up the lead back to Hamilton. Now, I could weigh in on this, but I'd rather keep my head. Look, we've not got to Saudi Arabia, guys, come on. Verstappen had used everything to get past Lewis the first time, meaning he didn't have the tyres for another shot. And after an off-season of clickbaity audiences with theories over how slow Mercedes were going to be, Lewis Hamilton took his 96th win of his career in what was, quite frankly, one of the best races I've seen for a long time. Weird people fighting at the front, action all over the place in the tightened midfield. I mean, if this is what we're to expect over the next 22 races, then bring it on, Formula 1. Anyway, let me know what you thought of the race and be sure to check out the Formula merch store as well. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as we'll have more of this content coming out every single week. And if you want to hear even more from me, then you can also drop a follow over on Twitter. It's at FP1Will, and all links for that can be found down in the description below. Anyway, that's all from me. I will see you with another video very, very soon. But until then, have a good one.